G'day, I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Man. In this video I'm going to give you my top 20 best garden tools that I always use. When I say tools, what I mean by that is anything that isn't organic. For example, fertilizer is not a tool in this case because it's organic, but a hammer could be. One last point, this video isn't sponsored, but where I do have an affiliation with a tool on the list, I'll let you know about it. Let's get into it. Number one, hammer, or mini sledgy, or mini sledgehammer to be precise. Use it to hammer star pickets in like this fella here. A larger sledgehammer is fine with a long handle and a heavier head, but they're harder to use. And a small hammer, well, they don't have the power to drive down if you want to stake out a large tree or something like that. I've even knocked out stumps with this. I tell you what, I've left this lie in the rain. I've lost it before in the banana trees and found it 3 months later. Nearly ran over it in a lawnmower. I've had it for about 20 years. Only a small, short handle, 30 centimeters max, but gives maximum power for such a great little tool. Number two, a star picket remover. This stake has done its job. This tree was leaning right over and I was able to stake it, straighten it out, and now it's growing upright the way it should be. But trying to get this fella out by hand, by wiggling it backwards and forwards, like probably I used to do in the old days, that only gives you a hernia. You put it at the base of the star picket, it's got a little head on it there, and it will grip onto the star picket, and you can pull it out. Could you imagine trying to pull this out by hand? I mean, that would be pretty much impossible. You'd have to maybe even dig it out, and then you could cause damage to the roots. Number three is this retractable hose reel from HoseLink. If you watch my videos quite a bit, you'd know that I'm an avid hand waterer. I just like it. I have got a sprinkler system, but I rarely use it because I prefer to get around my plants, water by hand. It relaxes me, de-stresses me, and I can see what's happening with my garden. I've had a heap of different retractable hose reels in the past, the cheapy ones, even more expensive ones, and they've never lasted. But this fella here, well, now we've got two of them. I actually got this one from HoseLink, they gave it to me, and then I purchased a separate one to put in our front yard. That's how much I loved its performance. This does what a retractable hose reel is supposed to do. It pulls out to a distance when you need to. This is 30 meters. I've tacked on probably an extra 10 or 15 onto this hose to make it even longer because I like going for long garden walks. And when I'm finished watering, it retracts away nice and neatly and easily. No stoppages, no problems, and that's all I ask from a retractable hose reel. These HoseLink connections are unique and strong. They don't click on and off, they twist on and off, which makes them really strong and unable to pull out like the click-on ones can, and then they go everywhere. How often have you had bust-offs when you're trying to water the garden and a big stream of water hits you in the face? Well, it doesn't happen with this fella here. This is an Australian invention. If you follow the link that I'll put in the description and also the comment section below, I'll pin it to the top, you'll get 10% off, not just a hose reel if you decide to buy that, but 10% off anything in their online store. No matter where you are, if you're in the US or Australia, it'll pick up that website and give you that discount on checkout. I get a small kickback, of course. The main deal is for you guys. Number four is the good old ET. Not the movie or the extraterrestrial. This is an army entrenching tool. I wish I had $1 for every pit that I dug in the military. Would have paid my mortgage off by now. Just imagine digging a 6-foot pit with this fella. No wonder my forearms are so big. But I really do rate it. As you can see, you've got the two sides. You've got the shovel side, which I use like a hoe, like a mini hoe, and then you've got this pick side, which is handy for, you know, doing a drill or picking out a plant or heavy weeds or anything like that. They are so sturdy. The problem is they're not easy to find. The only places I've found them, apart from joining the military, and I wouldn't recommend that, to join the military just to get one of these and then get out and take it with you. that's pretty extreme. What I would recommend is that you go to an army disposal store. The US, Australia, many armies around the world have this type of tool. They're all slightly different, but they're all good quality. Number 5 is a mulch fork. One of these fellas here are so handy when you're moving mulch, things like wood chip especially. If you try to use a shovel or a spade to pick up wood chip, especially if it's been sitting around for quite a while and it's settled, you'll just run into almost a brick wall. But with one of these mulch forks, well, you can just dig it in, get a whole heap of a scoop and put it where you need to put it. Number 6 is this humble scissors. A good quality scissors, mind you, something that you can use in the kitchen, but I don't. I use this in the garden. I have it hanging up inside the shed door because I use it so often. I use it for cutting twine, but also light pruning, so of tomato plants or vegetables that just need a light prune. I even use it when I'm harvesting, say lettuce or peas. This is probably something I'm using every day in the garden. Number 7 is secateurs. So I've had these now for a million years. You can see they're a bit shoddy and rusty. I've abused them. No real gardener can do without a set of secateurs when you're trying to prune fruit trees or even ornamentals, or even if you want to just harvest the base off a cabbage or a broccoli or harvest a cauliflower. Something like this is perfect. I'd much rather use other tools when I'm pruning very large branches or even ones that are an inch thick. So I'm happy with this size secateur for my garden use. Number 8 is the suite of prong tools. You've got the long prong, the son of prong, the general prong, the lady prong, which is exactly the same as the general prong except it's pink, and then you've got the weeder prong. These, I can tell you, are hell strong, and I use them all the time in our garden. I've known Peter, the guy who invented these tools, for a few years now, and he's from my hometown of Toowoomba. I have got a deal done with him, an affiliate type deal, whereby again you benefit. Go to the website Garden Tools Now, you'll get 7.5% off the purchase price. Deal or no deal, I highly rate these tools. I've really put them through their paces, and even Nina is using them in the garden, and they're good for lifting rocks or getting out stumps or just even loosening the ground up. Number 9 is a drying rack, or you can use it to wash vegetables. This here I've made out of a couple of carpenter horses, joined a couple of them together, put a couple of planks of wood across, nailed them on, and then underneath some galvanized mesh. We use this for washing vegetables like potatoes, even beetroot or whatever. Or you can also use it to dry onions, put it away in the shed and then pull it out, unfold it when you need it. Number 10 is another old army tool. This is a machete, and there's a good reason why they issue every soldier one of these fellas. It's because they are so handy to use, not to fight with, but to chop through jungle, to whistle away at something, to make a garden stake, to cut through a banana tree. There's so many things that I use a machete for. Make sure you get a good quality one. You don't want something that's going to break when you're trying to smash through things, because that could be dangerous. You want something that can hold a good edge as well and have good quality steel as well as a good handle. Number 11 is a garden cart. It's often overlooked in the backyard because, yeah, people use a wheelbarrow, of course, but this thing here holds more than that. But it's just nice and easy to be able to drag around, put prunings in, put firewood in. In this case, it's got half a ton of bricks and rocks that I needed to move from another part of the garden. I've just left sitting here. I have abused this thing no end, I can tell you. The brand is Blue Hawk. You can easily undo these clamps, fold the side down. Often this piece of kit is easier to pull around with the 4 tires than it is to, say, lift and push around a heavy wheelbarrow. Number 12 is a Mattock. Now, I was talking about my army entrenching tool and how I dug holes with that thing. This is much better and easier, but you just can't carry this on your back when you're a soldier and walk around the yamas. It's much easier to dig down when you've got a nice heavy mattock. If you get through harder ground, you can always turn it around and use the pick side of things. My grandfather was an opal miner, and I often think of him when I'm using this tool because he would use a mattock in the opal mines down a shaft, and he'd chip away at that black potch and hopefully find that elusive black opal and all make us millionaires. That never happened, of course, but it would have been nice if it did. And number 13 is a shovel or a spade. I know technically they're different shapes, but at the end of the day, they're both things you kind of dig with. If you're doing close quarter work, like a garden bed, for example, something like this, something where you don't need a long handle and you don't need to bend over so much, you just want more control, well, this is for you. If you want something a little bit bigger, you've got different sizes. Then you've got this long handle one that I also love using, and I probably use this more than anything. It's just easier because of the long handle. If you have to dig down and break through some solid ground, well, then a spade is your friend. Something with a nice sharp pointy edge and a good strong base so that you can stand on and push down. Number 14 is the old garden fork. Where would we be without this fella here? Like most of my tools, this has been battered and bruised, sunburnt, abused, but still going strong, and I'm not going to change it. See how bent that is? You can't basically dig potatoes without one of these. I mean, you could try with your hands. If you've got them in ground or in a large garden bed like these potatoes here, in about 3 months' time, I'll be just digging them out. Invaluable tool in the garden. Still no one's really come up with anything better, and how could you? The old garden fork. Number 15 is rake. Now the cockatoos have just come over, so this might be a little bit loud and entertaining. What can you do? This is Australia. Be here all day if I had to stop for every animal that come past and screamed at me. So rakes, important in the home garden. I know you all know that, but I've got several different varieties. And the reason why I've got 4 at least is because they're different sizes and I use them for different roles. If I'm raking up a whole heap of debris, well, I'll use a larger type of rake. If I'm doing a small job, say in the chicken pen, or raking maybe around a small fruit tree, I'll use a small headed rake. And if I'm just trying to loosen up some topsoil around some veggie plants, just so that the water permeates through a little better, you can use one of these sort of dethatching rakes, which are quite handy. They're good for getting rid of weed seedlings as well. Just raking around larger vegetable plants in the garden bed, you know what I mean. Creating a garden bed and you're just leveling out, raking leaves, whatever. A rake is obviously something that every gardener should have. Number 16 is a fold-up table. Kind of not a tool, but it's not organic either. So it's within the rules that I set up at the start of this video. But one of these fellas is so handy to have in the garden. You need a good quality one. I just like having it out in the garden when I'm doing some pottering around, or I'm arranging plants, or I just want something to rest on, some tools so I'm not bending down all the time. It really is a good, handy piece of kit and a good tool in the garden. Number 17 is a wheelbarrow. And of course, most gardeners have one of these. This fella here, he's a bit long in the teeth as well. Plenty of holes in the base, but I'm not going to get rid of it until the guts fall completely out of it. Because why replace something that you're just going to bash around with soil and rocks anyway? You might as well let this thing go for as long as it possibly can. And the reason this has lasted so long is because it is good quality. And that's what I'd recommend. You want to get a nice, deep, large wheelbarrow. No use having a small, flimsy aluminium one. You don't want to be doing 1,000 loads of soil when you can be doing it in 500. And the other thing is, with a wheelbarrow, you want a large tyre with lots of surface area so it can get over the grass through boggy places. And if that means paying a fair bit extra, I recommend you do that. Number 18 is a box cutter. I need one of these so that I can open all those boxes of tools that my sponsors send me. I wish. I use them all the time for tasks like especially opening up bags like potting mix. They reckon that you can untwist these and then the bag just opens up, but I've never been able to get the hang of how you do that. So the easiest and fastest way for me is just to use one of these knives, and there you go, like that. But be very careful, because cut it the wrong way and miss, and they are very sharp. I use them for cutting out bits of plastic, bottles. Sometimes it's easier to cut some twine with this rather than a scissors, because the scissors can sometimes bend it over, especially any thick rope that you need for tying trees or tying things up around the place. Number 19 is a handsaw. Now, like all my tools, these get a heck of a lot of use, so they don't look the tidiest, and I'm not the best at looking after my tools, sadly, but at the end of the day, these curved ones are great. So are these types. They're fairly cheap to buy. They last quite a while. Well, these are years and years old. I'm still using this one, even though the handle's broken on it. So if you've got a job that's a little too big for secateurs, but it's not worth breaking out the power tools for, these hand saws are good value. Check this contraption out. This is an old saw that had broken at the handle, and I just simply bolted it onto a piece of wood to give it that extension. Works a treat, and saved me quite a few bucks getting one of those extender pole saws. I'm trying to get to 20, and I tell you what, it has been madness around here. Besides the cockatoos, the birds, the animals, now I've got a tractor down the back there at the strawberry farm picking those awful strawberries, because they always pick them not quite ripe. They're just red but not ripe, you know what I mean? Grow your own strawberries at home, they're much better and tastier. And now I've got my neighbour, God bless him, nice guy, but he's arcing up his watering system from his dam, and you can hear that in the background. So I'm just going to have to finish this segment off, number 20, with all this noise going on around us. And speaking of the devil, or a devil of a situation, these are devil stakes. And it's another throwback to my army days, unfortunately, or sorry for you guys. These are so good. They've got a devil-like tail on them, where you can stick them into the ground by just stepping on them. And what we used these for in the army was to put tack signs in, to know where everything was. So in the bush, you're not quite sure who's who, because there's no big sign saying that the mess is over there, or that the Ramey guys are over there, or the OC is over there. What I like about these, besides being very robust, is they've got this square top on them, and that makes it easy to tie things off. So you can stake them next to a small vegetable plant like a tomato, a dwarf tomato for example, and you can tie it up, and you can use twine off several angles. You can even lean a plant against it, and I've got several examples in our own garden where I'm doing that right now. Plus, it's this devil type stake that makes it so easy to put into the ground. If you can find some good solid ones like this, I would recommend you get them, because they are really good to use for so many different things, sticking netting in for chickens or whatever. But yeah, very good stakes. I'm fully aware that there are many other garden tools out there, some very obvious, that I didn't mention in my top 20. This being one of them, a hoe. Simply because I don't use it in my garden very often or regularly, and that was part of the criteria, but you might. So if you have other tools that you use in the garden that weren't mentioned in my top 20, please write them down in the comment section below, so that we can all see, read, learn from them. And I'm just curious to see how many I've missed, or is there some other obvious ones that I might even like to get for my tool collection, because you can always have more garden tools. It was a fairly long video, I know, but I really wanted to do 20, because if I tried to do 10 top tools, well then I was going to run into trouble of which ones do you choose. And I found that the 20 gave me just about every main garden tool that I used regularly, of the non-powered type. Well, if you enjoyed this video, make sure that you use these tools, which I probably should have mentioned in the video. Hands are probably the best tools you've got. use these tools to curl up and give me a big thumbs up. Click that thumbs up button. Thanks a lot for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and sharing my videos around is probably one of the best ways you can help a channel out here on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.